Okay, it is now 6 o'clock. Bill, can you confirm that we are connected to YouTube?
We are indeed live.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so we are now starting the City of Rochester Preservation Board hearing for the May 6th, 2020 hearing date. Jill, do we have all the applicants entered to the room?
At this point, we have somebody from each case.
Okay. So I think we're going to start. Chris Coretta, if you could read the board chair statement.
Absolutely. Well, good evening, everyone. We're meeting tonight under very extraordinary circumstances due to the state and local emergency orders requiring social distancing. Earlier at our pre-hearing meeting, we amended the Rochester Preservation Board bylaws to allow us to conduct this hearing as authorized by the governor's and mayor's emergency orders, and to waive other requirements in order to proceed with this online hearing. These waivers permit us to hold this hearing by teleconference with no in-person attendance, allow applicant presentations by teleconference, and require all public comments both in favor of and opposed to the application to be submitted in writing by email or by hard copy document mailed to the zoning office or deposited in the secure Dropbox located in the link entrance of City Hall. All written public comments were all required to be submitted by 5 p.m. yesterday. Although this hearing's been altered from some of our normal procedures, many things remain the same. All the normal notifications for this hearing, including mailed notice, publication, and the posting of notice, were followed. All the normal timeframes for applicant presentations and comments in favor or and opposed in favor of and opposed to the application remain the same. And most importantly, this board will hear, review, and make decisions about all the applications with the same diligence and using the same standards as required by the zoning code. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone that when a case is called, the applicant will be allowed 15 minutes to present. The applications are posted on the city website and available for the public to review. All applicants were advised to ensure that their applications were complete and included all information that they intend to present at this hearing tonight. As the application is presented, staff will, as reasonably possible, show the pages of the application the applicant is addressing. Following our normal procedure, the board members may ask the applicant questions. If during the hearing, the board determines that substantial new evidence has been submitted by the applicant during the presentation or is given in response to questions by the board, the case will be adjourned to the next announced hearing date to allow the public to review that new evidence and to submit additional comments. After the applicant's presentation is completed, staff will read into record any comments received after the comment deadline that they are already posted on the city website. There will be no call-in comments after all the comments have been read, and the applicant will have 5 minutes to offer any testimony to rebuttal. The board will commence deliberations and voting after the public hearing of each agenda item, with the exception of any applications that are being adjourned. Please also note that if your case is approved today, a written decision will be mailed to you within 15 business days. The decision will inform you of the next steps to complete the approval process. Before we open the first case, please note that we are all volunteers. I'd like each of the board members to confirm their presence for purposes of establishing a quorum for this hearing and to introduce themselves and mention their area of expertise. First, Deborah Beardsley. And Deborah, if you could unmute yourself, please. Get in there.
I think we may be having a little bit of a connection issue.
Gotcha. Okay, well, hopefully we'll come back to Deborah. Ed Kane, are you with us?
I'm with you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ed Kane. I'm a resident of the East Avenue Preservation District.
Thank you, Ed. I'm next in line alphabetically. My name is Chris Coretta. I'm a resident of the Grove Place neighborhood. I'm a real estate professional. I think Deborah's back with us. Deborah, are you there?
I'm back. Yes, I'm having, I seem to be having Wi-Fi issues. I could see you guys earlier, but the screen was frozen, so I was trying to get back in. I am here. I'm Deborah Beardsley. I am a professor in the School of Design at RIT, and I'm a city resident.
Thanks, Deborah. Jim Deviney?
My name is Jim Navinny. I'm the historian for the Cornhill neighborhood and live in a historic district.
Thanks, Jim. Next is Jason Dobbs.
Hi, my name is Jason Dobbs. I'm an architect here in the city. I live in the Mountain Hope Avenue Preservation District.
Thanks, Jason. Next is Gerald Gam.
Good evening, everybody. My name, well, you know, is Gerald Gam, and I'm a professor of political science and history at the University of Rochester, and I live in the East Avenue Preservation District.
Thank you, Gerald. And next, last but certainly not least, David Matthews.
Hi, my name is David Matthews. I'm an architect and I live in the Highland Park neighborhood.
I'm Chris Snyder. I am a staff to the Preservation Board.
Go ahead, Jill.
I'm Jill Wiedrich. I'm the manager of zoning.
And I'm Natasha Ernst, legal counsel for the Preservation Board for the City of Rochester.
Great. Thank you, members and staff. Chris Snyder, did you want to call the first case, please?
Yes. The first case tonight, case 1, file A-057-19-20 for a certificate of appropriateness for 900 East Avenue, the George Eastman House. Applicants are Richard Magnanti, facilities manager of the George Eastman House, and Richard Osgood, the project architect. The purpose is to install 70 new custom single pane wood mahogany storm sash windows to the George Eastman House. Storm windows will be installed in conjunction with the window repair and replacement project approved under case A036-18-19.
Thank you. I guess I'll start with Mr. Magnati and Mr. Osgood. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And who was that answered?
Richard Osgood, Barrow Architecture.
Great. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. If you wanted to tell us a little bit about your project, that would be wonderful.
Okay, certainly. Thank you, board, for the opportunity tonight under the new normal, I guess. As Chris mentioned, we were presenting to you just over a year ago, the March 2019 hearing for our window and shutter restoration project on 70 windows on the mansion to be repaired, 62 to be repaired, 8 replacement windows to be removed, and replicas of the originals installed for a total of 70. We are now back tonight to showcase our project for storm sash to go in these same windows. In the summer of 2000, Kathy Connor, who's the George Eastman Legacy Curator, commissioned an assessment of the collections in the museum and in the mansion. And it was clear from that report that the UV light was degrading the collections, as well as the single pane prime sash was deteriorating due to not having the benefit of storm sash on the mansion. Later that summer, the museum approached Rochester Colonial to create a sample storm, and that was presented to the Preservation Board, and it was approved. And then work began on installing storm windows at approximately 41, I believe is the count, over the next 2 to 3 years, essentially trying to encompass the main living spaces of Mr. Eastman's mansion: the dining room, the conservatory, mother's bedroom, the bath, sitting room, many along the East Avenue elevation, the living room and the front hall and library. As time and other projects crept up, private funding sources were diverted to other needs, but Kathy was certainly aware of the condition of the rest of the windows throughout the mansion. And finally, with the public funding for the repair work of the 70 windows, it became very important to devise a way to protect all this repair work that we're going to be undertaking. And so we are proposing to provide single pane storm sash windows with Rochester Colonial. And they would be wood paint grade mahogany, and they would be shop primed and shop finished to match the existing storm sash, which are deliberately painted a different color from the original sash of the mansion so that the two can be differentiated. In general, the storm sash will be 1/1s at most locations, but it depends. A half round window would be a single light, of course. A quarter round would be a single light. There may be a couple of others of a unique type, but generally 1/1s. And there is a typical shop drawing in your staff report, which is hand numbered page 12, that shows Rochester Colonial's shop drawings, plans, elevations, and sections of a typical storm window. Also within the staff report on handwritten page 13 is a key that we've used for the window repair project of how the windows are going to be phased for repair and installation. It's a fluid dynamic, of course. We established this before our quarantine environment and trying to work around museums' schedules. But we're optimistic that a phased approach will continue. And ideally, the storm windows will be produced, and so they can be installed as temporary windows when the prime sash is removed for repair. And that is my presentation. I believe we also have Kathy Connor and Tim Forster from Rochester Colonial on the Zoom line with us in case there is a more direct question that one of the two of them can answer.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Osgood. This is an impressive presentation, at least I think so.
Chris, before we move to questions, let me just note that all board members have visited the site. We polled folks in the pre-meeting, and all board members present have visited this site.
Great. Okay, thank you. And I guess we'll open it up to the board for questions. We'll do it alphabetically. We'll start with Deborah Beardsley. Deborah, do you have any questions regarding 900 East Avenue or the applicant?
Chris, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but just so that you and the applicants know, if anyone other than Richard are going to speak for this case, they need to also be sworn in prior to speaking. Yeah.
Thank you. Would you like me to swear the other two people in ahead of time, or if they have something to say?
I suppose just before they speak. So if you ask them a question, just note that you're going to have to swear them in.
Okay, thank you. Then I guess we could start back with questions. We'll do it alphabetically. The board members will start with Deborah Beardsley. Deborah, do you have any questions about 900 East Avenue for the applicant?
No, I don't have any questions. This is a high quality proposal.
Thank you, Deborah. Ed Kane, do you have any questions?
I agree to as a well-done proposal, and I have no questions.
Thanks, Ed. I'm next alphabetically. I have no questions. As I said earlier, I think it's a great proposal, very well done. Next would be Jim Deviney. Do you have any questions?
I have no questions at all. I think it's a beautiful proposal.
Thanks, Jim. Next in line would be Jason Dobbs, alphabetically. Jason, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Are these storm windows meant to be permanent, or can they be removed in the summertime so they can use the windows?
I don't mind answering, but I need to be sworn in.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, is that Kathy Connor?
Yes, it is.
Kathy Connor, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thanks, Kathy.
So the storm windows can be removed to clean, basically, and we have had sometimes a couple bees get in there, so we have to remove them even more than we'd like during the year to just remove the bees nest. But basically, they can be removed to be cleaned, but we tend to remove them at all in the rooms that are exhibits or historic house rooms because we don't have the need for circulation. We have air conditioning and heat.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Okay. Moving on, next alphabetically is Gerald Gam. Gerald, do you have any questions about 900 East Avenue for the applicant?
I do. I have two questions. So Kathy, my first question is for you. What hardware is being used to affix the storm windows? So are they being screwed into the house as I think some of the first floor storm windows are, or will they be clipped on the way they are on historic houses typically in this neighborhood?
Well, I can answer part of that, and I think the person from Rochester Colonial should answer the other part. The original ones, we have a special secret lock. You use a screwdriver, so to speak, to push it in, unlock it, and then because of the weight of the windows, there's a latch at the top you pull down and then out to be able to to get it out. I don't know about the new ones, so especially the fancier windows, so I think they should address that question.
Okay, thank you,
I think
Kathy.
it's Tim that's on the line with us.
Tim Forrester, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Hi, Tim. Let me swear you in if I could, please. Tim Forrester, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir.
So Richard, I may need your help on this, but I'm fairly certain that what's going to be happening is that, as you can see, at the top of the storm window, there's a notch there, and I believe that slides into a some type of a setting block at the top, and then there are cam fasteners at the bottom. Those are brass fasteners that, as Kathy indicated, are turned with a screwdriver, and a simple cam turns and inserts it into the side jamb. It's a very clean and sort of elegant fastening. Richard, is that your understanding as well?
It is, Tim, exactly.
Okay, thank you both for that. And my only other question, Richard, you mentioned the color of the storm windows, and I missed what you said. Are they being painted to match the windows themselves?
The storms are being painted to match the storms that were put on in the early 2000s. So they are slightly different than the prime sash.
Why? So that surprises me. Why would the storm windows be a different color from the
I'll
main
answer
sash?
that. When we came before the Preservation Board in the first time in 2000, they felt because they weren't original to Eastman's time, they should be differentiated in some way. So we used all the authentic colors for all the other rest of the window, but we had the storm window sort of a blended, muted sort of white off white to show that they were different.
Okay, thank you. I guess we can't overrule the old Preservation Board. So the new storm windows will be the same slightly whitish color.
That's correct.
That the old storm windows are. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Dave Matthews, you're next. Do you have any questions?
I do not have any additional questions. Thank you.
All right. Bear with me just a moment. Okay, Mr. Snyder. Did you have testimony statements?
Yes, I do. So now I'm going to read a public testimony statement for any public testimony that was received after April 28th, 2020. Written this is the public testimony for 900 East Avenue, case A-057-19-20 for the May 6th, 2020 hearing of the Rochester Preservation Board. All written comments were due May 5th, 2020 at 5 p.m. for inclusion into the public record. All written comments which were received after April 28th, 2020 will now be read into the record. All other written comments can be found in the staff report. Please note that all comments were provided to the board in advance of this hearing. There are no additional comments or comments within the staff report for that matter for this case. So now we are going to go into, let's get through the application, deliberations for this case, and I will read the deliberation statement. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the deliberation for 900 East Avenue, case A-057-19-20 for the May 6, 2020 hearing of the Rochester Preservation Board. During deliberations, board members review cases and take action by voting. There is no participation by applicants or the public. Okay, Chris, back to you.
Thank you, sir. Now we're going to do a round robin for comments and questions to the board and discuss. And we'll start with Deborah Beardsley. Deborah, your thoughts, please.
Hi, I don't have any additional questions. All the questions have been answered very clearly. I think the proposal is high quality. I understand the rationale for having one set of windows be slightly different color than the other. And all of the details sound pretty excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Next would be Ed Kane. Ed, your thoughts?
I have no additional questions. My only comment is I'm fine with the windows as proposed.
Great, thank you. I would be next alphabetically. I think it's a very well done proposal. I have the utmost faith that it'll be carried out perfectly. Well done. I'm behind it 100%. Follows all of our guidelines. Next would be Jim Deviney.
Yes, I think that the work that's going on, I mean, there are so many projects going on within this building and they're all very well considered. And I think this is just kind of the icing on the cake. It's really a very nice proposal and I look forward to seeing the completed George Eastman Museum.
Thanks, Jim. Next would be Jason Dobbs.
All right, so the use of storm windows is encouraged by our own preservation design guidelines. And making them out of wood is a historically appropriate material. I think the design is in keeping with existing windows on the project, and I am in favor of this presentation.
Thank you, sir. Next would be Gerald Gamm. Gerald, your thoughts?
So I completely agree with what everybody else is saying. I think this is a model presentation and entirely appropriate for this historic structure. It has my full support.
Thank you, sir. And lastly, Dave Matthews, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, the proposal has my full support as well. It's visually compatible to the rest of the historic structure using in-kind materials, and I think it'll be a very nice capstone to the rest of the work that's going on there.
Great. Don't really have it here, but should I get a motion, Chris? Or just go?
Yes, I would ask for a motion and then for a second.
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Jason. Go ahead, please.
All right, for case number A-057-19-20, I would like to make the motion that we improve the installation of 70 new custom single pane wood mahogany storm sash windows as presented.
Second.
A motion has been made by Jason Dobbs and properly seconded by Gerald Gamm. I will now go through alphabetically and ask each and every board member whether they are yay or nay to support the motion. First would be Deborah Beardsley. are you in support or opposition?
I am in support.
Thank you, Deborah. Next, Ed Kane, are you in support or opposition of the motion?
Yay.
Thank you. Next would be myself, and I am in support of the motion. Jim Deviney? Jim Deviney, are you there? Hopefully we didn't lose you.
All right. Yes, yay.
You're a yay. All right.
Yay.
In support of the motion. Thank you. Next would be Jason Dobbs.
I vote yes.
You. Jason Dobbs votes yes. Gerald Gamm?
I also vote yes.
Yes, in favor of the motion. And Dave Matthews?
I am in support.
Thank you. All 7 board members are in support of the motion.
Can you just confirm that the motion carries that it's approved, Chris?
Motion, yes, sir. And the motion carries that it was approved as presented.
Thank you. So the second case tonight, case 2,
Thank you.
A-060-19-20 is a case for a certificate of appropriateness. The applicant is Reza Manish. Sorry, Reza, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. He is the project architect. And this is for 498 West Main Street, located in the Susan B. Anthony Preservation District. The purpose is to demolish an existing second floor addition at the rear of this property adjacent to Clark Alley and to reconstruct a larger addition for use as an artist studio and office associated with the art gallery in the first floor of this mixed-use building.
Mr. Ormanish, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Reznor Manish. I'm the architect for this project, and been working on this for a while.
Mr. Ormanish, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. I do have to swear you in, though, please.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Ormanish, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
You proceed.
Yes, my name is Reznor Manish. I'm the project architect for this project. And basically, what we are doing, the back side of the building on 498 West Main is pretty dilapidated. I'm sure you all have seen the exterior portion. The interior is even worse. A lot of rotted wood that needs to be repaired and replaced. Some of it is not even repairable. It pretty much, we are proposing that basically from ground up, we remove the existing CMU wall, block wall, and then also the ground face block on the west side is almost very deteriorated badly. So we are proposing basically remove that entire existing back. The shed is kind of a shed roof, as you see on the drawings, and basically extending the gable end, which was the original building, extending that out to come to the Clark Alley, and then another dormer type, gable type coming to it perpendicular, running east-west. The first floor will be all block, basically, as it is right now. The block that is there right now, the car has hit it several times. You can see it if you look closely on the wall. And the photos, of course, the photos probably not all, we didn't have enough space to put them on, but there are at least 2 major cracks in that wall on the Clark Alley. The ground face block on the north, which is to the yard of the adjacent property to the west, is pretty much deteriorated. There are several locations they have filled in with bricks, and then they just gooped it up with cement, several locations. So that as might as well has to be replaced and removed and basically built to match existing. Now, the only thing that I based on my review with the professor, he's an art professor, Mr. Shepard, art professor with RIT. There is elevation that I provided after he reviewed it. He wanted more lights. So basically, as you see on the north elevations, instead of 2 windows on the left and the 2 windows on the right, there are 3 windows and they're much larger. They're 18-inch above the finished floor and 6 foot high. And I went and looked at that Susan B. Anthony area, and then there are a lot of older windows that you can see that they're taller than like just 4 foot that originally the owner requested. I suggested to him to make it bigger. He gets more light, especially the northern light is very appropriate for a painter. He does painting. So this first floor, I think he's going to be utilizing it as a sculpture studio. But the second floor, that it's going to be utilized as his painting studio, or even if his students want to come and utilize this space for that purpose. The siding is a half lap wood to match existing, which is a 4-inch exposure, and it's dark green, so we're gonna match that. The windows gonna be Anderson 400 series, which is wood inside. Of course, they have several different choices, either oak or pine. I don't know, depending on the budget of the owner, I would like to have oak interior and then clad exterior, but it depends how much he was willing to dish out. I've done this before, and the oak is almost twice as much as regular pine if you go with oak exposed. But it lasts a lot longer, and it's much, I don't know, it's more pleasant aesthetically also. Other than that, the windows, the light, the divided light is going to be between the 2 pane of glass. So it's not going to be on the first, it's not a true light dividers. It's going to be in between the 2 pane of glass, which is a 1-inch insulated glass. The color at this point, basically the owner is wishing to have a tan beige color. So it kind of stands out from the green, dark green half lap wood siding. But then again, I looked at the front windows on the main street, they are mainly darker green color. But we can discuss that. If you have any suggestion, we are open to it. At this point, I'll just leave it to the board for suggestion and comments and recommendations.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, sir. Quick question, Chris Snyder, did we mention that we all visited the site?
We did not. I was actually going to stop you before we did the questioning. So we polled all board members in the pre-meeting, and all board members had previously visited this site before the hearing tonight.
Great, thank you. Mr. Manish, I'm going to open this up to the board members for questions to you, and we'll do it alphabetically. And we'll start with Deborah Beardsley. Deborah, do you have any questions about this presentation?
I don't have any questions except for a clarification. I just wanted to check and make sure that the applicant said that the windows would not be true divided lights, that the divisions would be between the panes. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Next would be Ed Kane. Mr. Kane, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time.
Thank you. I would be next. I just wanted to clarify, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to clarify the window situation again. It is, you're proposing exactly what we're looking at now. Is that correct?
Well, no, we are adding, actually what I'd like to do, share a window, share a photo, not a window, PDF file on the screen so you can see it's exactly the same, except the windows. There's 6 windows on the north side. The windows on the west side will remain, but the height of them is 32 inch wide, but 6 foot high. So and then
Reza, is
18
this going to be new information? Is this like a
Yes,
new?
I emailed those drawings about a week and a half ago to your attention. I don't know if you received those or not. Apparently not.
So I did
don't-
not, and that would have been past the deadline date for any new information to be presented.
Right, but I have those on the, I have them open on my screen. If I can share that.
So we can't, sorry to interrupt you, Reza, but we can't review any new information that is
Okay.
outside the scope of this application tonight.
I understand.
The reason is we want to give the public enough time to be able to see it as well.
Yes,
We're also required to by the state, under state law.
that's all good. I understand.
Chris, how would you like us to proceed from here, Chris Snyder? With the new information?
So we can move forward with this application, or Reza, you can withdraw your application tonight, or just get comments from the board, which may be beneficial to you.
Yes.
And we can
Chris,
look at a future hearing.
Can I jump in here from law for a
Yes.
second? So if the applicant feels that the decision can be based on the information in the staff report today, then we can continue as is. But if the applicant would like to make sure that everything in the record is accurate with his new information, then we can hold this until next month's meeting. So it's up to the applicant based on the information in the staff report today.
Thank you, Natasha.
Yeah, that would be fine. I can basically submit the new elevations and even add more information and then come to the board meeting next month, if that's fine.
And if it's
Tom Worth from the law department also. I suggest we still continue with any questions on the existing application, and then also any public comments, if any, and any rebuttal that the applicant may have, and then hold it.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Gerald did raise his hand. Gerald, did you have a question?
It was more a question for the two attorneys. It's not an option for us if we wanted to make modifications to this proposal and approve it tonight.
Okay.
It's not, if they are to the extent that it's not to incorporate the changes that the applicant has proposed, no.
Okay.
If the applicant feels, if Reza feels like there is enough information to vote tonight, there can be a vote made on the information that's presented here.
But then again, like I mentioned, the windows, they are 6 windows on the north side versus 4. They're 6'28", the same width, but they're 28 and 32 inch by 6 foot high. So that the look is different because the owner wanted to get more northern lights, especially for the purpose of painting.
So we should wait because it sounds like the staff report does not accurately reflect what the final product will be. So when we take a vote, we will want all the information in the staff report to look like what the applicant will fulfill.
Okay. All right. Then we
But
can.
to Tom's point, we can ask all the questions and mention any of the public comments, of course.
Okay.
And then we'll just hold it.
Thank you. To continue on with questions, my other question was, if it's possible, it would be very helpful if you could also give us like a rendering as well. The elevations are very nice, but if you can include a rendering, it always does help.
Right, okay, no problem. When I look at it on the computer, it looks very rendered, but once you print it at low resolutions, then it comes out blotchy, but I can provide that, no problem.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your help and your cooperation. And it's a beautiful project. It really is, in my opinion. Those are all the questions I've had. Jim Davini, questions?
Well, now that I'm hearing this discussion about the windows, I guess I'm just enough confused that I really want to kind of wait until we see what the new renderings look like. I generally like what's going on here, so I'm not averse to this proposal by any means, but I want to see the proportions on those windows. And since the artist wants more light, I'm surprised the windows are 6/6. I would, it seems like a 1/6 would be a little bit acceptable as well. So, there is just a question about the scale of those windows. And I have to admit the scale on these drawings, the windows look a little undersized. So I think that actually enlarging the windows could be very beneficial to this proposal. So I look forward to what Reza wants to bring to us next month.
Thank you, Jim. Jason Dobbs, questions, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a question. I'd like to see the east side elevation because I'm having a hard time understanding how this one roof works. Let me see if I can annotate on this thing. If I can draw, let's see, this one, can everybody see my pink circle?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I don't understand how that roof is gonna work and what that slope is, since it has to start like out on this edge and go way back to hit this here. That's gonna be a very large, low slope roof. So I think an east side elevation would explain how that's gonna happen. And it looks like we have a piece added on here that isn't here. So
that's already there. I guess that when I went there originally, they had framed it and then they had closed it. So that's what I show it there, but that's what the modification of the new drawings, that's what I have. But it shows that that's already there, and then we are not adding there. But I will be more than happy to provide you a west elevation. Also, of course, I can provide a section too that may clarify some issues.
Yeah, the more information, the better. I just want to see what this roof is going to look like because I think it's going to be very long and low.
Yes. It's not even gable end. There's no way, because as you see on the floor plans, this room is as it goes toward the east side, it gets narrower and narrower and narrower. So it's a tricky type roof. It's not a simple gable end roof. The other one, the major one that is coming out, that's very simple. But when this other one, it was really difficult to basically look at it in 3D in my head in order to be able to draw it properly. But I will be more than happy to provide you the east elevation and a section to both sides, because no matter what, I have to do a section later on anyway. And I'll provide a section at the east end and one at the north end.
Okay, that was my only question. I think everything else looks really good. I understand the block wall on the first floor. That's a hard turn to make in that alleyway there. I'm surprised it doesn't get hit all the time. But
Yeah.
everything is looking good. It looks a lot better than those flat roofs and the patios out there. So I'm excited to see what comes back next month. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Next would be Gerald Gam. Questions, Gerald?
Yes, so Jason understands the block wall on the first floor. I just wanted to hear a little bit more about the logic for the block wall rather than bringing the siding all the way to the ground. That was so that's my first question. Can you just say a little bit more about that decision?
Traffic, that alley, Clark Alley is narrow, is pretty narrow, maybe not even hardly maybe 15 feet. And that wall has been hit 3 times, at least the best of my, when I look at it, there are three places that are cracked quite a bit. Some places they patched them. So now if I bring the siding down, they're gonna keep hitting it. Now, to be honest, I was thinking I could have put a brick on that, because if you go to alley toward the west side, there's a nice, very beautiful brick building with mansard roof, and I really like that building. What I could do, basically on the face, I can provide brick, and then if you look at the side of this building, they're all brick. So I can put a brick veneer, but block backup, I need that just in case if another car hits that wall, then at least the structure won't come down.
Yeah, so you're already coming back with new drawings. It might be useful for us to see a choice between the brick and the block wall, because I didn't look closely at the other buildings in the neighborhood. If brick is a more common material in that block than concrete block, brick may be a more appropriate material for this building. So I actually really appreciate you making that suggestion.
Sure.
My other question, so the windows, what are the windows? What is the material of the windows?
The windows, basically they're wood, either pine or oak or maple. Most likely it'll be pine. I'm going to suggest to the Professor Shepherd to go with oak if the budget allows. On the inside they're going to be stained and polished. And then on the outside is clad, basically fiberglass facing, and then you can choose the color. Color right now, I'm thinking of beige or tan color on the outside, and inside basically natural wood, stained and polished. I'm hoping that he would go with oak. I realized that when you go to oak, it's almost twice as much. Expenses are, it jumps substantially. So I'll see what I can do.
Okay, that sounds perfect. Those are all appropriate materials for the district. Anyways, thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Gerald.
This is Tom Worth from the Law Department again. Just as a reminder as to expense of different material options on the windows or anywhere else, that the board is not entitled to favor one option over another based on cost, unless they are two equally appropriate items. So that's not if oak, for example, if oak were more appropriate, it would not be a justification to say, well, we can't do oak because it's more expensive than wood.
So Tom, I appreciate you saying that. I actually, at least in my judgment, all the options that they were presenting were all appropriate.
Okay.
But I appreciate you pointing that out, because that is actually a really important principle for us.
Okay. Tom, anything else? Are you good with that? We'll move.
No, that's all I had to add.
Oh, great. And Gerald, you're good with your questions. I move on to Dave Matthews for questions. Dave, any questions for the applicant?
Well, I just want to build on what Jason was looking at with the roof to the left. Where Reza, what is drawn here is almost looks like a flat elevation that's kind of a square box. But looking at your roof framing plan and where the ridge of the small roof is, and down at the bottom, on the right side, there's very little that comes off the ridge and slopes down to the alley. So Chris, if you can go back to the elevation drawing again. So it seems to me that I'm gonna try that what you're proposing is looking like that. Can everybody see that? The white line I drew on there?
Cannot.
There's a red one. Does that show up?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's what it looks like the roof framing plan is showing us. And it's not a horizontal gutter situation on that roof. So I think we just need more information and maybe a roof plan, and like Jason said, a elevation from the east, because that changes the look back there quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it's a little deceiving what's shown on the north elevation as almost looking like a rectangular box,
Right.
where this has an angled wall to that elevation. So I think we need more information on that.
I understand.
So that was just a comment on that one. And I want to go back to the divided light issue. So you're in a historic district, and historically the windows would have been true divided light. So under your options for the Anderson 400 series, at least in our packets, there was a number of options, and I think we'd want the full divided light to match more of what would have looked like in the historic nature. So one of the top three, rather than, I think what you were saying, it was not going to be true divided or full divided light. I know it's not true divided light. It's not single individual panels,
Right.
but trying to get as close to the historic nature of what would have been there originally would be in line with the full divided light. So that would just be my suggestion, is to look at those details.
Okay.
Those were the only comments that I had. Otherwise, I think it's it's a great improvement over what's there. You're cleaning it up. You're making it more habitable, and providing a place that hopefully will be a great studio for the owner. So we appreciate your work on this.
Thanks for your comment.
Thank you very much, David. So if the board has no more questions for the applicant, we'll turn it over to staff so they can read the testimony statement.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Let's go down to the testimony. These are pages for that. Okay, so additional public comments. This is the public testimony for 498 West Main Street, case A-060-19-20 for the May 6, 2020 hearing of the Rochester Preservation Board. All written comments were due May 5th, 2020 at 5 p.m. for inclusion in the public record. All written comments which were received after April 28th, 2020 will now be read into the record. All other written comments can be found in the staff report. Please note that all comments were provided to the board in advance of the hearing. So now I will actually read these into the public record. There were several comments that came in after the April 28th deadline. So April 30th, Blue Seas from the Rochester Contemporary Art Center. Hello, I write today in support of Luvon Shepard's planned improvements to his facility on West Main Street. The gallery and studio are important assets for the local art community and active in advancing the West Main Street Susan B. Anthony neighborhood. He's already made significant improvements to the building, and I look forward to seeing these efforts continue. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. Blue Cease, Executive Director, Rochester Contemporary Art Center. There are two other comments that were provided by the same property owners. I believe it was husband and wife. Chairpersons and members of, this was on May 4th, from Dan Hoffman. Barbara and Dan Hoffman, 40-year residents of the Susan B. Anthony neighborhood, fully support the demolition and restructure. They also sent another comment that day, which is a little bit more substantial. Barbara and Dan Hoffman, 40-year residents of the Susan B. Anthony neighborhood, fully support the demolition and rebuilding for a larger art studio and office at the Joy Gallery, 498 West Main Street. Luvon Shepard, the owner, has always expressed a positive attitude of the neighborhood and business district. His investments in the historic district have proven to be upgrades to the architecture on Rochester's Western Gateway. He continues to offer Rochester's East Side public enlightenment at the Joy Gallery. Sincerely, Barbara and Dan Hoffman. And this is from Dawn Noto from May 1st from the Susan B. Anthony Neighborhood Association. Hello, the Susan B. Anthony Neighborhood Association fully supports the applicant's request to demolish an existing upper story rear addition and replace with a larger studio and office at 498 West Main Street. The owner of this property has been fully involved in making the property and West Main Streetscape a more inclusive and inviting space for our community to gather and celebrate art. From small art exhibits to First Friday events in several locations throughout our neighborhood has been a wanted activity in our community for years. Any way that we can support this application to further their mission to provide quality space for our artists' communities, or our artist community to thrive and grow in our district is welcome and completely supported. Thank you, Don Noto, President, Susan B. Anthony Neighborhood Association. The applicant now has a chance, or Chris, if you want to take that part.
Sure. Mr. Ormanish, if you would like to speak to anything that was said, you're more than welcome to. You don't have to, but you're more than welcome to if you'd like.
No, I appreciate everybody's comments. They're welcome. I'm going to address all those comments, and hopefully if I'm on the agenda for the next board meeting, preservation board meeting, I will have all those information into Chris. So hopefully we can meet and then have much better set of drawings, more complete drawings that it would show what the intent is.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I guess we'll turn it back to Mr. Snyder. Wanted to close the case and we'll go into deliberation.
So thank you so much for joining us. This is the deliberation for 498 West Main Street, case A-060-19-20 for the May 6, 2020 hearing of the Rochester Preservation Board. During deliberations, board members will review cases and take action by voting. There is no participation by applicants or the public.
Okay, I guess we're going to do a round robin for comments and maybe more questions. We'll do this in alphabetical order for the board. We'll start with Deborah Beardsley. Deborah, what are your thoughts on this case?
I think that the points that we have brought up as a group are very important. I think the architect for this application is very willing to address our concerns and incorporate our feedback. And he also has some great plans, come back with additional materials that additional details for us, and I support that.
So you'd be in support of holding it to next month?
I'm in support of holding the case till next month, yes.
Great, okay, thank you. Ed Kane, your thoughts?
I'm also in support of holding the case until next month, and I look forward to seeing the revised information presented.
Great, thank you. I'm next. Christopher Coretta. I think it's a great project. I think it's going to be very well done. We'll get through some of these little details, and we greatly appreciate Mr. Manish's cooperation with us. Look forward to working with you, and I'm also in favor of holding it until next month. Jim Deviney?
Yes, I'm in favor of holding it until next month, and I agree with many of the comments that were made by my fellow board members.
Thanks, Jim. Jason Dobbs?
Conceptually, I'm in favor of this project. I think it's going to be very nice when it's done. I would just like to see the more detail on how the roofs in the back work, and I look forward to seeing it next month. Thanks.
Thank you. Gerald Gam?
Like everybody else, I think conceptually this is a terrific project. It's appropriate for the neighborhood. It's appropriate for the building. It will be a great improvement. And so I support holding it, and I look forward to seeing the revised project. I will, look forward to the architect telling us more about what they'll be doing with the roof, as well as with the larger windows, as well as what materials, whether brick or concrete block, they're favoring for the first floor. But I really like this and really like where it's going.
Dave Matthews.
Yeah, certainly is a huge improvement over what's there right now. So there's some details to figure out, and roof pitches and such. And I'd be really interested in seeing what the new window patterns look like. And I would make sure that that's carefully studied with the nature of the historic district and how many windows you're proposing, 6 versus the 4, and how those patterns show up. But certainly there's plenty of examples around, and I think we're just looking for something that would be compatible with the neighborhood, I think. but support holding the project and look forward to seeing what the improvements are to the plans.
Thanks, David. David, would you like to give us a motion?
Sure. I would like to propose for case number 2, file A-060-19-20 at 498 West Main Street to demolish an existing second floor addition at the rear of this property adjacent to Clark Alley and to reconstruct a larger addition for the use as an art studio and office associated with the art gallery on the first floor of this mixed building, that we hold this case for next month with the architect and owner taking into consideration all the comments and suggestions that have been presented to him.
Second.
A motion.
Can you detail those again? I'm sorry, just for the record, so they're all in one place for us.
A motion has been made by David Matthews and seconded by Gerald Gam, I believe. Was that correct?
Gerald and Deborah spoke simultaneously. Why don't we give the second to Deborah?
We're going to give the second to Deborah. I like that too. Okay, now we will vote either in favor of the motion or in opposition to the motion. We will go down alphabetically. Deborah, do you vote to for the motion to hold this until next month? Yes or no?
Yes, I vote.
You vote in
Yes.
favor of it. Thank you. Ed Kane, do you vote in favor or opposition?
I vote in favor of holding.
Thank you. I also am in favor of holding. I vote for that. Jim Deviney?
I vote yay.
Yay it is, in favor of holding it. Jason Dobbs?
I vote to hold.
Vote to hold. Gerald Gam?
I also vote to hold.
Thank you, Gerald Gam. David Matthews?
I vote to hold.
Great. It's a unanimous vote. All 7 members voted to hold this case until next month.
Just one more thing before we close out this case. For the record, and then for my benefit as well, could we, and for the applicant's benefit, could we just clarify what those hold items were one more time?
Sure, I'll, so the applicant.
This is Tom Worth. I mean, we have the tape of this proceeding. I've been keeping notes. I think other people have too. I think we can do that without belaboring them and without making the risk that we miss something in trying to summarize them right now.
Okay, thank you. All right. Then I guess we'll move on to the next case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. Chris, if you wanted to present the next case, appreciate it.
Next case is case 3, file A-061-19-20 for a certificate of appropriateness. The applicant is Anthony Douglas, the property owner for 1283 Park Avenue. And the purpose is to replace 12 vinyl windows, the entire house, with vinyl clad wood windows, and to install 1 new vinyl clad construction window and a new wood door at the rear of this single family dwelling. All board members have visited this site prior to tonight's hearing.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. And Mr. Douglas, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to swear you in. Anthony Douglas, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Wanted to give us your presentation. We'd appreciate it.
I wanted to replace all of the current vinyl windows with vinyl windows, except for the front, which is the picture window, and the 2 double hungs, which were done previously. And the rear door, I wanted to replace. And for the back of the house, as you may have noticed, in the upper center is the bathroom window, and I wanted to put a transom to replace that non-tempered window. That's the bathroom. And for the lower part, second window in from the left, I want to put a new window matching the window to the left, which is number 2.
Great.
Yeah. And the door, rear door that I want to replace is off to the far right.
Okay. Great. If you're okay with it, if you're done with your presentation, I'll open it up for questions from the board. I just wanted to say
Yes,
that
sir.
it's a very cool house, by the way. I really
Thank you.
always love that house. So we'll
Thank
do
you.
this. We'll do questions alphabetically again. We'll start with Deborah Beardsley. Deborah, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Hi, Mr. Douglas. I just wanted to
Hello.
ask, I just wanted to clarify, I either misheard you or you misspoke. You are replacing the vinyl windows with vinyl clad wood windows, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Next will be Ed Kane. Ed, do you have any questions?
Deborah asked it for me. So I have no-
Okay. Very good, thank you. I don't think I have any questions. I looked at it pretty closely. Thank you. Jim Deviney?
Yes, the only question I had was the one that Deborah just asked, so I'm satisfied at this time.
All right, I think Deborah covered a lot of us. Next will be Jason Dobbs. Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dobbs. Mr. Gam, any questions for the applicant?
So I have a couple of questions. Mr. Douglas, thank you for the proposal. First question, I just want to confirm, you said the big picture window in front, that you're not changing at all, that's staying as it is?
Correct.
Okay, and that's the window that has, it's a very large window. At the top of it, there are 4 little windows, and then it's flanked on either side by tall, narrow windows. That's what we're calling the picture window to the right of the entrance.
Of the front of the house?
Yes.
If the front of the house, yes. If you're looking at the front of the house, all the way to the right, those are right. Those windows I put in earlier.
Right. So I just want to
area.
confirm, but that's what you're referring to as the picture window. It's actually 3 windows side by side by side.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that was my first question. My second question, if we can go and look again at the view of the house that shows the new windows that are going in. Back right there. So my question here is not actually about the windows, because I understand the new windows will be exactly the same as the old windows. It's about the trim around the windows. Because of what's going on with the pandemic, I actually didn't leave the sidewalk, so I couldn't take a close look at the trim, but it will be very important that the material from the new trim be exactly the same as the material of the old trim, which I assume is wood, and that the design of the trim be the same. So for example, at the bottom, where right now there's a black line where it says 2, I'm assuming there's some sort of sill there. That same sill should be replicated on the new window, and any other detailing, it may be the top, should be replicated on the new window. Is that something you've considered or not? I guess that's my question. Have you paid close attention to the trim, and do you have a plan to replicate it exactly?
I think I carefully replicated when I did the front picture with the 2 double hungs. I did aluminum cladding so that it would fit with what everything else had.
So what I would ask, and I'll say this again when we are deliberating, I would ask you to match the trim for the 2 new windows, not to the front, but to the windows on that same side. So if the existing trim is wood, my inclination would be to approve the case as long as the new trim is wood. So whatever the material is on the existing trim should be replicated on the new trim.
if it's wood, I would definitely be good with that because it would be much easier than trying to bend aluminum.
Right. I would think, I mean, the original material almost certainly was wood, so I'm hopeful that the wood trim is still there. So that it's mostly at this point a statement.
Oh, okay.
I just want to put that on the record to see if you had any objections to matching the original material and the original detailing.
Oh, if the original is wood, I'm good with keeping it that way.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. Next, Dave Matthews. Any questions, David?
Yeah, Anthony, I was just curious on which Marvin line you were going with. Is that you're going with a Marvin window? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know which series you were going to use? Because in the application, it just says Marvin. So I'm fairly familiar with the Marvin product, but I just wanted to clarify which series.
Management system. I don't see that it says. I'm looking at the invoice and it doesn't say.
It doesn't say. Okay. All right. I just wanted to see if you had that information in front of you. If it's not
pretty
readily
pricey.
available, then no worries.
Okay. I do know that it's wood interior.
Okay. Not a problem. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, board members, if there are no other questions, we will turn it over to Mr. Snyder. You can, read testimony statements, please.
Certainly. This is public testimony for 1283 Park Avenue, case A061-19-20 for the May 6, 2020 hearing of the Rochester Preservation Board. All written comments were due May 5th, 2020 at 5 p.m. for inclusion into the public record. All written comments which were received after April 28, 2020 will now be read into the record. All other written comments can be found in the staff report. Please note that all comments were provided to the board in advance of this hearing. So there were no, I'm sorry, I'm a little lost here. Give me just 1 second. Yeah, there were no additional comments as part of this case other than what was presented in the application package. So now I am going to move to the deliberations for this case. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the deliberation for 1283 Park Avenue, case A0-01-19-20 for the May 6, 2020 hearing of the Rochester Preservation Board. During deliberations, board members will review cases and take action by voting. There is no participation by applicants or the public.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Snyder. Board members, we will discuss and vote. We'll do this alphabetically. We'll start with Deborah Beardsley. Deborah, what are your thoughts on this case?
I feel this is a high quality application. It's very detailed and careful. I'm in support of it. I believe that it's appropriate for the neighborhood and for this property.
Thanks, Deborah. Ed Kane, what are your thoughts on this case?
I agree. I think, has my full support, and as was mentioned, just make sure that the trim on the new window matches the trim on the old window.
Great, thank you. I would be next. I would agree with my colleagues. The detail is very important. Great point brought up by Gerald. And again, I love this house, and I think it'll be a great improvement. So I'm in full support of it. Jim Deviney?
Yes, I'm ready to support this project, and I agree with Gerald on the framing of the windows.
Thank you very much, Jim. Jason Dobbs?
So removal of the entire house full of vinyl windows is very much appreciated and very appropriate. We have used vinyl clad wood windows in the past, so we have a precedent for allowing these, and I think it is an excellent replacement for what is in there now. And I appreciate the homeowner spending all this time and effort to do it correctly and repair the sins of the past. So I am in support, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Next would be Gerald Gamm.
Yes, so I am in support too. This is a clear, straightforward proposal. I really appreciate how easy it was to read the proposal and how well considered it was. As everyone else is saying, it's fully consistent with preservation guidelines. I love that we're getting rid of the vinyl windows and the homeowner is replacing them with vinyl clad wood. And the only condition I'd impose is the one that all of you have already, well, so far agreed with, that the new trim around the windows match in material and design the old trim.
Thank you, Mr. Gamm. David Matthews, your thoughts on this case?
So I'm in support. It's a replacement in kind, essentially, from an exterior look. I appreciate Gerald's comments about the trim and paying attention to the details. Otherwise, I'm in full support.
Excellent. Would someone like to give me a motion including the trim detail?
I'll give it.
Thank you.
So this is Gerald. This is file number A-061-19-20 at 1283 Park Avenue. The application is to replace 12 vinyl windows with vinyl clad wood windows and to install 2 new windows and a new wood door at the rear of the dwelling. I make the motion that we approve the application as submitted on condition that the trim used for the 2 new windows match in material and detail the existing trim on the house.
Second.
And I'm sorry, who's seconding?
David.
David, thank you. A motion was made by Gerald Gamm, properly seconded by David Matthews. We will go through alphabetically for a vote. We'll start with Deborah. Deborah, are you in favor of the motion the way it was presented, which was essentially the way the case sits is presented, but with the addition of the trim details?
Yes, I am in favor.
Thank you, Deborah. Ed Kane?
I'm in favor.
Thank you, Ed. I am also in favor. Jim Deviney? Jim, you're gonna have to unmute yourself. We want to hear you.
I too am in favor.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Jason Dobbs?
I vote yes on this proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Dobbs. Gerald Gamm?
I vote yes.
Thank you, Gerald Gamm. And David Matthews?
I vote yes.
Thank you, board. The board has unanimously voted for yes for the project the way it sits with the addition of the. Thank you very much.
Somehow we got all the way back up here, so just give me a second.
I've lost the visual part of all this. I can see all the thumbnails, but I don't see any of the documents anymore.
I can see everyone.
Is anyone else having those issues?
No.
Go down
Jim,
to the bottom and click Zoom again. It should open up the full screen.
Where's that?
It should be down in your bottom dock.
Deborah, it depends what kind of computer Jim has.
Oh, good point.
Oh. Yeah, that did it. Thank you.
Okay, are we all set?
I think we are, yes.
Perfect. All right, I will read the last case tonight. So case 4, file A-062-19-20 is a certificate of appropriateness. The applicants are Jim Speedy, the property owner, Charles Corby, business owner of Pittsford Dairy Farms, Patrick Tharp, business owner of the Chai Guy, for 729 to 733 Park Avenue, located in the East Avenue Preservation District. The purpose of this application is to complete facade renovations, including window and door replacements, options for installation of new transom windows, and options for signage for both tenant spaces to read Pittsburgh Dairy Farms and the Chai Guy. All board members have visited the site.
Great. Bear with me one moment. Mr. Speedy, are you with us?
Yes, hold on. Yes, I'm here, but my face isn't up on the screen.
Okay, as long as you can hear me. Thanks, Jim. Thank you. Jim, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. So go ahead and give us a presentation, please. Jim, are you with us?
Oh, you want me to go? I'm sorry.
Yeah, please just kind of go over what your thoughts are and what you'd like to do there, please.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought other people were going to do this. All right.
Oh, no problem.
Basically, we're taking the storefront windows that were probably put in the 30s or 40s and replacing them with new windows. The doorways, the signs are going to be removed, and the doorways are going to be returned to probably the original with the transom glass. There's a tin ceiling in both foyers, I believe, and we're going to bring the ceilings back up to that height and be transom glass above the front door, along the right, around the whole vestibule and the front of the glass. I think it's option B that we're looking for the most. Charles has got the plans that he's looking for. The doorways will be changed. There's a couple of light fixtures they wanted to add on the front of the building and above the doorways. There was a plan to change the tile on the underneath the windows to make it wood, more in keeping with the period of the neighborhood. I don't know if that's in the plan at this point. But basically, I think the building would originally had transom windows around the front and above the doors. So that's what we're trying to bring it back to.
Okay. So just to be clear, we went over this in the pre-meeting too. It was a little confusing because we just want to make sure that we're looking at it correctly and do this right for you. Essentially, we have 5 different options. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the one with the sign above the bigger window is just an option if you didn't want us to have transom windows. But I think our goal is to reestablish the transom windows that are original to the building. And I think some of them are too intricate. I think maybe the 4 panes was the plan we wanted to go with in the transom in the front of the building, and then just 1 pane above the door and 1 pane above the side window going into the entrance. I think it's B, as according to Charles. That's what the plan we're looking at most. There's a diamond shape. There's a plain, just a plain expanse of glass. But I think the 4 break it up to make it a little more interesting. We'll be replacing the doors with light kind doors, thermal pane, bronze type doors. Charles is his own door picked out. I don't know if it's in this presentation, but he does have his own doors picked out for his unit, the Pittsburgh Dairy, that is. And light fixtures also on 2 of the light fixtures will be alongside the middle door going upstairs, and then light fixtures above the entrance of both stores.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt, Jim. Chris Snyder, did you mention that everyone visited the site for the record?
I did not. Thank you for reminding me, Chris. All board members did visit the site. We polled board members in the pre-meeting. They have notified that they have all visited the site prior to tonight's meeting.
Thank you. So Jim, if you're all set with your presentation, we'll open it up to the board for questions. Does that work for you, Jim?
Okay, well, Charles's brother was the one who designed it. He's an architect. I don't know if he's on tonight, but he's more versed in than is Charles here? Charles and his
Is
brother?
that Patrick?
No.
Patrick, you're muted. Is it Patrick Tharp?
No, Charles Corby. He's a Pittsburgh Dairy owner, and his brother is the architect who designed this.
I think you can hear me now.
I'm sorry.
I just say that before any other applicants speak, Chris will have to give you the oath before you're going to speak.
Okay, I just wanted to, if you had any more input, because he's the one.
Great. No, we welcome the input. We welcome it greatly. I'll just swear you in quickly, Charles, if that's okay. Charles, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
This is Robert. I'm Charles's brother, but I do swear to that, and I do agree to the oath.
Okay, thank you. But it came up as Charles on the.
That's okay. He's sitting here right next to me.
Well.
He's here right next to me.
Okay, thank you. So go ahead, please. Tell us what you can.
Okay, what our intent here is obviously we hope to have a successful branch of Pittsburgh Farms Dairy on Park Avenue. We recognize that it's a fine early 20th century commercial building. We felt that the storefronts, the current aluminum finished storefront, which I actually think probably dates from the 1960s, really detracts from the overall appearance of the facade. We tried to do something simple that would be acceptable to the building owner, but also better represent our brand and be more compatible with the historic appearance of the building. We are proposing a simple circular blade sign, which is included in the application. We agreed on design B, which is a fairly simple and straightforward restoration of an open transom. I know there was some discussion earlier about the color of the glass. The intent of the glass is that it will be completely clear, thermal pane, so it's more efficient. But we spent quite a bit of time designing the interior. It will be a nice bakery case that will be lit, that will actually face out with nice lighting inside. So we really want to transfer the activity inside out to the street. And so that's why we proposed keeping the storefront, hopefully increasing its presence on Park Avenue. We would like to use an oak door, an oak door that is pretty much, there's a standard early 20th century design. I have a sketch of what it would look like, basically with 8-inch rails, 26-inch by, I remember, I think it's in the application, the height of the glass light and a simple panel below with a brass kick plate, pretty much standard. The other thing that we would like to do is rebuild the bulkhead with a simple framing in accordance with the City of Rochester design standards for storefronts, with basically a 4-inch frame around a flat wood panel with a slightly 6-inch rail down at the bottom against the ground. I think that's in a summary of what we'd like to do.
Okay, thank you. Just we're going to open up to the board for questions. I'm not to go out of order, but I had a question which you just mentioned. Is that not on this presentation, the application tonight?
What?
The last design detail you just mentioned.
I think it was included in the description, but that's always been our intent to, right now there's a vertical, it's kind of a T111 treatment on the bulkhead, but we felt it would look much nicer with a traditional, to restore it to probably what it was originally, which is a wood frame.
It is there. Chris Snyder just pointed it out. Thank you. Okay. So let's open it up to questions to the board members. We'll start with Deborah. We'll do this alphabetically. Deborah Beardsley, questions for the applicants?
Hi, everyone. I do have a couple of questions more for clarity right now. Got a little bit confused when you were referring to option B the way that things are numbered in our packet is a little bit different, I think, than the way you were describing them. Option B is actually the flat signboards overhead, this one. That's labeled option B. And in our packet, there's a letter from Agnes Cazile from Pittsford Farms Dairy saying that option B, this one that Chris is showing, is the preference, and that all the other options in our packet are not what they're interested in pursuing. So all the other options in our packet have to do with lights in the transom area and the storefronts. And so I just got a little bit confused about that aspect. And I was also very interested in Jim Speedy's description of the entryway and tin ceilings. And I think you said something about tile work. And at some point, I would appreciate more clarification about that. But I think the most important thing, first of all, is to really clearly get us all on the same page about, so to speak, about which proposal you're asking for, because you're not asking for the one that Chris is showing right now, correct?
Our preference is to have the transom restored to clear glass with the 4-light option that we included in our package.
Yeah, that one. Yes, I believe that's the one.
Yep.
Okay, so the note in our packet from Pittsford Dairy that says you're preferring the other one is old, is not up to date as far as what you're thinking. Is that right?
Yes, this is clearly our preference, is the restored transom option.
Okay. And with this window, with this configuration of the lights in the transom?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Deborah?
No, not at this time, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on to Ed Kane. Do you have any questions, Ed?
Just a couple quick ones. The proposal includes having the same glass storefronts in both storefronts. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then also something was said about the doors. Were you planning on having different style doors for the two businesses?
Yes, I think that Pittsford Dairy is going to do it with their own door, as you can see in the picture. I haven't picked a door for the chai guy. I would assume it'd be just similar door, but with an ionized, one glass panel with an ionized matching the rest of the windows. Because Pittsford Dairy's door is going to be intricate. Most of Park Avenue stores have different doors if you look down Park Avenue.
Our door, we're hoping to do an oak, as I said, a single light oak door. Number one, because it's historically appropriate with early 20th century storefronts. And number two, as part of our brand, if you come to the store in Pittsford, the doors that go in there are really nice, naturally finished wood door. And several things that we're doing both on the interior of the store recall the brand that we've established at the main store.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I don't think I have any questions right now. I think I have a pretty good idea as to what your presentation is. Thank you. Jim Deviney?
Yeah, I think I'm beginning to understand it now. I was confused by all the options, but now that we've discussed this a little bit, I have a better idea. So I don't think I have any questions at this time.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Move on to Jason Dobbs.
No questions. I think I have a pretty firm grasp on what's going to happen here. So thank you.
Thank you. Gerald Gam.
So I want to thank you for this proposal. So I just want to clarify. Number one, there will be a transom window above each of the two doors that will be distinct from the transom above the main shop windows.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Number two, in your proposal, you had 4 proposals for restoring the glass transom. So I, number one, want to say how pleased I am that you're committed to restoring the glass transom. This I think is very much in keeping with the character of the building as it was originally designed and with the character of the neighborhood. Why did you choose the four glass panels rather than, for example, the 8 glass panels or the one that had the diamond in the center?
Go ahead, Charles. I think it's aesthetics. I think we all like the 4 panels.
Talked to the group back on March 13th with Chris in our meeting. We looked at all of
Could one of you, whoever is speaking, could you get closer to your microphone?
Sure, this is Charles.
Excuse me, Charles, have you been sworn in?
Well, I can swear in again, though.
Go ahead. Do you want me to speak?
Sure, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just describe it. We selected, we tried to look at different options just to see what we felt was the right mix for the building. We even looked at a diamond pattern because that's found above the apartment entrance at the center of the facade. We ended up with something I think a little bit simpler, understanding that this would be executed in a standard anodized aluminum frame, and felt that the detailing would probably come off better in that medium with a fairly simple pattern, which is something that is it is a pattern that is seen throughout the city, really, in other early 20th century buildings.
Okay, I mostly just wanted you to talk it through because it was not obvious to me which of the patterns was the better one. So makes sense. Is that same pattern going to be used also for the Chai Guy shop?
Yes.
Okay, so the only thing different, so the Chai Guy shop and the Pittsford Farms Dairy shop are going to have the same transom windows above the shop window, same individual sized transom windows above the doors. The only difference between the signage, obviously, are going to be the doors themselves.
Correct.
Okay, this I think is a question for Mr. Speedy, but correct me if I'm wrong. Who is responsible for the door for the Chai Guy? And what can you tell us about the material for that door? Is it also going to be a wood door? Is it also going to have a single light? And might it make sense, and this may be a question also for Chris Snyder, for the staff to sign off on whatever the door is for the Chai Guy, just to be sure that it's consistent with the other door. So Jim, what do we know about this?
Yeah, we were just hoping to get a door similar there that's there with a bronze aluminum frame, a new door. It'd be a single glass panel. The Chai Guy requested it, so the Pittsford Dairy is going for a more elaborate door because of the brand, but the Chai Guy doesn't need that expensive door or elaborate door. I know it's not going to be the same, but it's a lot better than the door that's there now, the brushed aluminum door. I mean, if we had to do a different door, I'd be open to a different concept.
So Jim, just to be clear, I'm not suggesting it be the same as the Pittsford Farms Dairy door. It's fine that it be a different door. I'm just wondering, what is the material of the door? Is it wood?
No, it'd be the aluminum. It'd be like the glazed aluminum framing on the rest of the store. It'd be exact same as the door there now, but in the same aluminum makeup as the rest of the windows. It'd be a new door, one pane of glass with all aluminum framing. So exactly the same as the silver door there, but in bronze, I believe, but new.
Okay, but you would, if the board required it, you would be willing to do a wood door there?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, it just, we haven't ordered anything. Yeah, everything's has been planned yet. Yes.
Okay, I'm just putting that as a question because that would be a point of discussion for us.
I haven't looked into wood doors, but that'd be something I'd be open to. Yes.
Okay. And so otherwise in the signage on the buildings are going to be the 2 hanging signs, Chai Guy on the right, Pittsford Farms Dairy on the left. And then there's also going to be a logo in the door.
Correct.
Okay. Will there be any signage in the main window?
No.
And Jim, that's going to be true also for the chai guy.
I don't know, Pat is with us, but I think there's appropriate signage allowed in a window. According to Chris, there's so many square feet allowed in a window. So I don't know what the chai guys plan on putting window signs in. But is Pat with us?
So there are, just so you know, there are standards. Signage in windows is okay as long as it follows standards and gets our approval.
Yes.
So
Yeah, this is Tom Worth from the Law Department. Clarify that window signs have to be run by the Pres Board for appropriateness, just like everything else.
Okay. Is the chai guy with us, Pat with us, or no?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Hi, Pat. You can speak to your sign. I'm sorry.
I would need to be sworn in first.
Okay.
Happy to do it. Okay. Patrick Tharp,
Yes.
you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So we did not consider a sign for the front glass. We felt that we wanted to have more light come in and not have any kind of signage on the door to block our view or to block the view of people looking in. So we wanted to stick with just the blade sign in the upper corner.
okay, thank you. So your plan is the blade sign, nothing in the window, nothing in the shop window, nothing in the door window.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Gerald. We'll move on to David Matthews. Questions?
I just wanted to clarify the lighting. So it's pretty evident about the blade sign lighting, but just wanted to clarify the other lighting. Was there lighting in the vestibules, or was there other?
I can clarify that. That you may want us to submit more information on that. My brother found milk strainers that are being used for interior lights, and the shape of that is, this is what they look like. It's actually a real milk strainer. It has the same profile as an early 20th century incandescent light, and it's kind of a theme in the dairy. So that's what we proposed. This happened after we first found these, after we submitted the package, but we do understand that you may want a submission so you can see what this looks like.
That's correct, Robert. We can't entertain any new information.
I understand that. That's
Yeah.
why I'm saying that you may want us to make another
and
submission for that. We're
I'm
okay
just
with that.
clarifying for the record, that's all.
Yeah, we fully understand that.
Is the intent to hang those in the vestibules though, or at least in your vestibule?
There would be one hung over the front door in the vestibule, and then there will, we know they're not under your review, but they will match other ones that are being hung above the counter inside the shop.
Okay. And I think, I guess just clarifying if the chai guy was going to do something similar, or if you had other thoughts on lighting in your vestibule. If you don't have it now, I guess we need to see both come back so we can take a look.
We currently do have lighting in the vestibule, and the fixture would have to be changed out once that ceiling is removed.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Just from legal chiming in real quick, because of the different vestibule light and the different door, because those are two different things, and the option of the transom being more heavily selected, I would encourage us to hold this so that the package is accurate on the point that it's voted on.
Thanks, Natasha. Okay, if the board has no further questions, if
So actually, I'm sorry, Chris, I do have a question.
Please.
Natasha? So I just have a question because I could be wrong, but I think in similar cases in the past, well, I know in similar cases in the past, we've often made relatively small modifications to cases and approved the
Agreed.
modification.
Mm-hmm.
following standards we've used since I joined the board, I would think approving the door certainly would fit into that sort of modification, maybe even the light fixture too.
We'll leave it to Tom. Tom, I agree with you on the door. The light fixture seemed more if it were just inside, absolutely. But we have a light in the package that was submitted that seemed like it was going to go over the door, and that seemed to be more. But Tom, since it's good to have two lawyers, and if he disagrees with me, that's fine, because you know what happens when you have more than one lawyer in a room. But Tom Worth, were you on?
Yes, I am, and I think it would be fine to approve the door.
With it? Okay.
Hear me?
Yeah, what about the light?
So it's okay to approve the Chai Guy door because it's not inconsistent with what's been presented. The light, they're going to have to, well, I guess at least the dairy's coming back anyway with a new light application later on, but we could approve everything else here that's not indefinite or not approved. You know, they could vote on and decide on the other items that are not unclear, being the blade signs, the doors, transoms, and I guess that's it.
But Tom, it's Gerald again. You do think they'd have to come back with a new application for the light? You're not comfortable with us making that modification?
Do I get to chime in? This is Jill Weidrich, the manager of zoning, and I concur with legal counsel that they will have to come back to entertain the lighting.
We do not object to coming back with a new application for the light. We're fine with that.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna make another application for the right side of the building has plywood over the windows on the Chai Guys store. We have to make application to change those windows. Chris didn't want it in this application, so we're gonna have to come back whenever. We're gonna apply as soon as possible and come back for that. So we'll add the light fixtures in that.
Would it make sense if you're already coming back for the windows and the light fixture to also show us what you're planning for the Chai Guy door?
Well, we would like to get the front of the store rolling. If we could get the door settled tonight, it'd be great, so we can order it. Pittsburgh Dairy wants to get this opened up relatively soon. But the door picking last to be done. We can do the whole storefront and leave the aluminum door there for now until we get a ruling. I guess that could be done.
Okay, I have no more questions. I appreciate you all answering what I did have as questions.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, the Zoom has disconnected a couple of times here. So if someone else offered this question and I'm repeating, I apologize. I just wanted, since the proposal is the transom windows with the blinds, in terms of signage and wayfinding location identification, I just wonder if there should be something small on each door. And I'm not sure that my comment or suggestion here is in the right sequence. Like I said, I was disconnected twice and everyone was frozen. But I'm just thinking that if you only have the blade signs, that means that people, you know, there's certain viewing directions. And I just wondered if maybe the applicants could consider not a huge sign, not in the windows, but maybe, well, somewhere on the front face of the storefronts. Just a thought to put out there.
We have a disc logo proposed on the glass of our entrance door, and that's included in the packet.
I see it there. I wasn't sure if our scans or photocopies in our packet are quite dark. Okay.
I think it's 12
And that's-
inches in diameter, if I remember correctly.
And that's the Pittsford Dairy, correct?
It's the Pittsford Dairy logo.
I've noticed that Steve has raised his hand a couple times. So Steve, you're unmuted if you'd like to chat.
I do need to be sworn in.
I can't find you, Steve.
I'm right here.
Bear with me a second, please. There you are.
So I just want to remind people that if you're not speaking, to mute your mic.
Steve Stanley, do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Both both businesses and their blade signs will be double-sided. So the viewing angle will be both acceptable from both directions, coming both east and west down Park Avenue.
Thank you.
Steve, do you want me to go to a certain page to show that?
I don't know if either of the renderings denote being double-sided, but that obviously is the Chai Guys, and Pittsford Dairies would be very similar to that. You know, a 36-inch diameter circle with the bracket that you're showing right there. With both brackets for both companies will have lights on either side to illuminate both sides of the double-sided blade sign. They will also be installed at a height which will be underneath the kickout window of the second story. What I'm guessing is the residence. They're on the front of the building. So that will take care of the viewing angle up and down Park Avenue.
And is that at the height shown on the page? Is that depiction an accurate depiction of the height for the sign installation?
Correct. The document that is being shown right now, right there, is both to code on the height, and we will be using that height for the installation of both signs for Pittsford Dairy and for the Chai Guy.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
May I address Deborah's concern?
Please.
Deborah, thank you for bringing that up about the door sign. While we didn't plan on having a sign on the front door like Pittsford Dairy Farm, we're not opposed to putting something on the door if the board wanted to have a consistency with having something on each door. So that is an option if that's better.
You know, the consistency, thank you for that, Patrick. The consistency was not of concern. My main concern was pedestrian traffic, and eye level, you know, average eye level, spotting an additional opportunity to brand it. But I was not concerned with both doors matching at all. In fact, you guys have some really nice individualized decisions going already.
Okay, thank you. There may have been a rendering of our logo on the door. I'm not sure if it's in this packet, which plan it was, but there was one that was released that showed that on the door, one of the renderings.
I think it'd be to your benefit to have the additional sign on the door, just from a front view. When I was driving by and I was looking at the proposal without the signboards, it sort of struck me that you might be missing an opportunity there. So I think I would definitely look at that, and you're certainly welcome to have that additional sign there. So I think it would help out the viability of the business, and also I think the composition of the facade as a whole.
Okay, thank you. Would the board have recommendations on numbering? Because right now we have our numbers. Mine's up on where the old Speedy sign is. Would the board have recommendations as to once the transom windows are installed, where the building numbering should be located?
I'd say on the door would, if it was consistent on the 2-door glass, you know, it'd be easy, and then like easily seen, I think, is especially if it was a lighter color and the door had some darkness to it, it would stand out. So I would definitely look at the contrast, but that would make sense. I don't know, Deborah and everybody else.
I just wanted to point out that in our application, we had proposed a little slate panel over on the pier below the blade sign that would have the address right there. And we felt that would be visible and it would look nice as well.
So it's Gerald. I would think the natural place to put the number would be on the transom window above the door. I could be wrong, but I think that's where they usually appear on these commercial buildings.
I would agree. I would say the number would be appropriate either on the door, if there's a nice to integrate it, or right up above the door transom, rather than a small slate piece that's kind of different from the signage proposed.
Joyce?
We're fine with that. We're happy. If you would prefer to have it on the transom light above the door, we're okay with that.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, if there are no further questions, if the staff would like to read testimony statements.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
This is the public testimony for case 4 for 729 to 733 Park Avenue, case A-062-19-20 for the May 6, 2020 hearing of the Rochester Preservation Board. All written comments were due May 5th, 2020 at 5 p.m. for inclusion into the public record. All written comments which were received after April 28, 2020 will now be read into the record. All other written comments can be found in the staff report. Please note that all comments were provided to the board in advance of this hearing. So we received one public comment from John Lembach. Dear Chair, this application presents another opportunity to unmuddle the facade of this pre-war building by removing the unimaginative signs covering the original window transom glass panes. The applicant's original submission of window options A through E would essentially be a variation of the current sign panel. Windows options 1 through 4 offer choices that are closer to the Preservation Board guidelines on pages E1 and G1. My personal recommendation would be for option 2 or 3, as option 4 is featureless, while option 1 is too plain and does not flow with the character of the transom window above the entrance door to the second floor, which is located between the 2 store fronts. The proposed blade signs, mounting brackets and lights with lights and wall mounted lighting are very acceptable as submitted. I realize the applicants changed their submission request well after the filing deadline had passed. They now wish to install a newer version of existing out of character signage. This sign issue was discussed previously at the May 2nd, 2018 Preservation Board hearing when the then store occupant wished to make similar changes. The decision of that hearing was placed on hold pending a revision of the proposal that would be closer to the design guidelines and character of the building and was to be worked out with a neighborhood representative. That business owner is now relocated to a site outside of Monroe County. There appears to be another option other than an outright denial of this application, which chooses option B, allow the applicant to maintain the existing sign panels with minimalist updated lettering to their business names until November 1st, 2020, after which they would be required to install either options 2 or 3. I look forward to having these businesses in our neighborhood. Regards, John Lembach, 105 Meg Street, 14607. And that was the only public comment provided in that time frame. So Chris, back to you.
Thank you very much. Let's talk, and the board now will talk, deliberate, and potentially vote. We'll start with Deborah. We'll do this alphabetically. Deborah, what are your thoughts on this case?
So Chris, actually, I was going back to you to see if the applicant had any.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
No, that's fine. And then I have to do the deliberation statement. It's very easy to fall back into our habits of being in the in-person hearings.
Yeah, this is all new. So if the applicants would like to say anything, to speak anything that was said in that last statement, more than welcome to. You're not required to, but you're more than welcome to if you'd like.
I think we've said pretty much everything. The glass is going to go around the whole front. The transom glass will go, the 4 panels, 1 panel in the vestibule, then a panel above the door. So there'll be it'll be all glass, a lot more light in the store, in keeping with the neighborhood, like the last letter said. So I think I've said enough. Maybe Charles and Robert will finish up.
Aesthetic enhancement to the building.
You were muted for a bit. Would you mind repeating that, please?
No, I said, we believe that restoration of glass in the transom will be a significant improvement to the aesthetics and historic character of the building.
Okay. Very good. Anything else?
Okay, I will now read the deliberation statement and then the board will go into deliberations. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the deliberation for 729 to 733 Park Avenue, case A-062-19-20 for the May 6, 2020 hearing of the Rochester Preservation Board. During deliberations, board members review cases and take action by voting. There is no participation by applicants or the public.
Thank you, sir. And now we will do this alphabetically. We'll start with Deborah. Deborah, your thoughts on this case, please.
I think it's a high quality application. I think it'll make a great improvement to this building, and having 2 great stores there with revived storefronts is terrific. I wanted to ask my colleagues on the board if everyone is A-okay with the transom window configuration from window option 1, which is the one that applicants have said they most prefer. I just wanted to check in, maybe particularly with Jason and David from an architectural point of view, but really with everyone, to make sure that, because there were 4 options here for the transom windows, just wanted to make sure everyone was comfortable and felt that window option 1 on handwritten page 8 is in keeping with the neighborhood, is the best selection out of those offered. That's my only thought. The only thing to add to our session here.
Okay. What about the additions that we talked about? How did you feel about that? The Chai Guy's door, the additional sign.
I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with everything else that's been discussed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Kane, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts is that I think it's a good proposal, be a nice addition to the neighborhood, and we're just a couple just tiny tweaks away from getting this all finalized for them.
Okay. I think it's a great proposal. I think it's very cool. I think it fits in perfectly with Park Avenue. It's very cool, and I would support it. We do need to tweak a couple of things, but overall, I think it's a great proposal.
Yeah, I like what's happening to this building. I think it's going to really bring it back and make it a very nice part of the neighborhood. You know, sometimes when you look at presentations such as I'm looking at right now, the window option 1 on page 8, you know, in order to relieve some of the clutter in their presentation, the windows look dark, and we have to remember there's going to be a lot of light inside each of these stores, and that's really going to brighten up this whole look that seems very dark in the presentation, because that's not a fair representation of what it's really going to look like. And it's going to bring the outside and the inside together in a very dynamic way, I think. I got just a little confused by the last thing that I believe it was Robert said, because we're talking about those transom lights. And, you know, over each large window in the option 1, there are 4 frames. And then there would be another transom over the door. But then I thought the way he stated it, that he was talking about 4 windows clear across the front, so that the transom would be just one large one over the large window, and then the transom over the doors. So I'm just a little confused now how that came down. Again, because I think there's going to be so much light from the inside. I don't care if I don't see the need to put a number on the transom or anything else to kind of block out, because I think the transoms are going to be very handsome. And you know, as far as the addresses are concerned, I kind of like what they did, putting them on the brick beside each door. That's certainly eye level. And so I don't know, I just, there's a nice simplicity here, and I hate to clutter it.
Okay. Jason? Thank you, Jim. Jason Dobbs?
All right, so I think all this bayonet signage proposed, I think it's very high quality and well designed. It's in keeping with the character of other signage on Park Avenue. I like the transom restoration option number 1 with the 4 divisions above the main glass. I think I prefer that over option 3 with the extra division in it. This is a more, it's a more unique look. I think the option 3 gets used a lot. So this kind of, it's nice, kind of stands on its own. See, yeah, option 3, we see that all the time. So I like it. If the building owner and tenants like option 1, I like option 1. I think the wood door is very appropriate. I think that works well. The door signage works well and is appropriate to other signage that we've approved. I'm okay with the storefront door on the Chai Guy side. Having them both be wood and be identical would be the best solution, but I could be all right with just an aluminum door over there. Preference 2 wood doors, but I wouldn't let that hold up the project. And the building signage seems appropriate also. And they mentioned the wood restoration below the window. And I'm fine with the way that was described also.
Thank you. Gerald?
So I think this is a really exciting project. This takes a commercial building on one of the liveliest commercial streets in the city and just transforms it, peeling back layers that have been added over time to reveal a building that's going to be much closer to the historic structure. And as I look at the city standards for storefronts and signage, the proposal to restore the 2 transoms above the 2 store windows. Oh, no, I actually was, well, yes. Okay, that's what I was looking at. And if you could go to the next one, Chris. Thank you. So what I see them proposing is very similar to the top and bottom here, where we currently have basically the bottom version of this image that has the enormous pizza sign running across the building. That sign is coming down, and we're going to get the top version, and we're going to reveal a transom, though in this case, revealing it means installing it and creating it. So I just want to point out how faithful this is to the city's preservation guidelines and what an improvement it will be for the neighborhood. I also want to point out in this image where the building numbers are. So if you look at the top image, the building number, I think it's 927. Yes, 927 is on the left, and then to the right of it, it says 931. If you go to 931, right there. So the two appropriate places, I think, to put the building number in a historic district like this would be either on the door as on the left or on the transom above the door as on the right. What's interesting about this treatment, and it's consistent with, I think, other shops in the neighborhood, is it appears on the transom above the door when there is a transom and when the door itself has some other imagery on it. And I think that is the reason that I believe it would be more appropriate to put in the transom window above the door in this case, because Pittsford Farms Dairy is going to have its logo on the door itself. So I would favor putting the street numbers on the transoms above the doors. I very much like the design that was chosen for the transom windows, very much like the door that's proposed by Pittsford Farms Dairy. I would, however, require that there be a wood door approved by staff, if staff is willing to do that, but just some traditional wood door for the Chai Guy. It does not in any way at all need to match the wood door for Pittsford Farms Dairy, but I think it's important, given the restoration being done otherwise in this building, that there be a door made out of a traditional material matching other traditional doors in this district.
Gerald, I don't mean to, well, I do mean to jump in and go to Chris Snyder. Would staff be comfortable doing that?
Doing what exactly?
If the Chai Guy or Jim Speedy brought a specific door to you for your approval, as long as it was a natural wood material, if we put that in our motion.
Are you saying that if a door would meet the preservation design guidelines for approval by staff?
Yes.
I would be comfortable with that.
Okay.
You would be comfortable.
There's enough information in the application where it mentions the door and the testimony that they gave today for us to be able to do that.
It makes it easier for the applicant as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would just like to kind of mention, since this image is on the screen right now, that the wall sign is an alternative here. In fact, it's listed as number 1, so that that is kind of we can't say it's inappropriate.
But Jim, that's correct. But I don't see that as a number. I think that's a sign. So, for example, if that was an attorney's office, it might say, Jim Deviney, attorney at law. So I think the idea of a number on slate on the side is a cool idea and would be funky, but I think a much more traditional and appropriate treatment would be to put it in the glass. But that's why we have all of us. I mean, we decide together what's appropriate, but I'm offering my judgment, trying to follow the guidelines as best as I can.
David Matthews.
Right, Chris, can you go back to the photo with option 1?
What page is that? Oh,
page 8.
Thank you.
You know what I really like about this restoration is replacing the clear anodized with the bronze. And I think if you look at the overall composition of the colors on the facade, that's going to make a huge improvement, along with replacing the tile under the windows. So I really applaud the applicant for going in that direction. I think especially with the wood door, at least on one side, and I think on the Chai Guy side, it would make it very rich and just a really nice composition overall for the 2 storefronts. So I'd encourage the wood door if that's in the budget and project scope. But I think that it's just such a huge improvement over the clear anodized. And
budget doesn't matter, David.
Well, it's their choice. It's their choice, but I think it would be a huge improvement. So I want to thank the applicant for the application, for the huge efforts to restore the building and make it really a kind of a destination on Park. The blade signs I'm good with. The lighting on the blade signs is fine. I think the signage we talked about on the doors would be great and helpful to the businesses. I would leave it up to the applicant where they want to put the numbering system. I think that's the signs on the doors are more important than that. Yeah, I think the 4:1 panel on the storefronts is great. I think that's the right choice. So with a couple minor modifications and then getting them to come back with the lighting, I'm in full support of that.
Okay. How do you feel about staff reviewing the door for the chai guy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they got some choices to make and find a door that fits, preferably wood on my opinion, but we can leave it up to them and staff.
I think it should be, well, we talked about it being a natural material. I think, and I'm happy to go back and take the temperature of the board, but I think that's kind of what I was picking up.
Sure, I would lean that way for sure.
Okay. Gerald, how do you feel about a motion? Because you had most of the details ready.
Okay, so let me try a motion. Well, let me tell you what I want to put in my motion to see if others on the board disagree, because I should know that before I make the motion. I would make the motion approving this, requiring that there be a wood door for the chai guy with the specific door to be approved by staff, and with a strong recommendation that the numbers be placed in the transoms above the doors. Or a requirement. Like, I would require it, but I also don't know if it's worth us having a night-long debate about where the numbers are. Okay, I would require that the numbers be in the transoms above the doors and that there be a wood door for the chai guy. Would anybody object to that motion?
I would not.
I support that motion.
I would advise that you use, instead of saying staff, the manager of zoning.
Okay. Okay, so let me try making
It's
this
more of a formal
okay
term than we've used in the past.
Gerald,
okay,
can I jump in here?
let me try making this motion. So this is a motion for file number A-062-19-20 to do a complete facade renovation at 729 to 733 Park Avenue, including window and door replacements and the installation of new transom windows above the two doors and 4 light transom windows above each of the 2 storefronts. That this proposal also include a wood door described in detail for Pittsford Farms Dairy, and that we require as a condition of approval that there be a wood door approved by the Director of Zoning for the chai guy door, and that the street numbers appear in the transoms above the 2 doors.
I'm just gonna chime in, Gerald, you're giving me too much power. I'm just the manager.
Okay, that my motion be modified to say the manager of zoning. So that
Okay.
we approve this conditional on the manager of zoning signing off on the chai guy wood door, and that the door numbers and that the street numbers be in the transoms above the 2 doors.
I would also say as part of that motion that the lighting, that the hanging lighting, that it will be in the vestibule. That will need to be held or brought to a separate hearing, because it is shown in this drawing, even though there's nothing that's necessarily been presented for it.
Okay, so Chris, should I say that the motion does not extend to approval of lighting?
For the lighting in the vestibule, because it does include the lighting, from what you're saying, it does include the lighting for the signage, correct?
Correct.
But
Okay,
I
but
have
it
a
wouldn't
question
include
about
that.
at least Pittsford Dairy wanted to have milk barrel light fixtures, and yeah, I have the same questions you all have about, like, what lights do you want to approve and let them come back for any other lights later on?
Yes, we should specify that. Gerald, specify the lighting on the outside and that they could come back for approval of any other lighting.
Frankly, I was confused by the lighting. So we are still approving lighting for the 2 blade signs?
Yes.
Okay, but no other lighting.
Correct.
Okay. Should I start my motion over, or can I just add this to the end of the motion, Chris?
Chris Snyder, Tom.
How do we feel about that? It's recorded and it's in Tom Worth.
Yeah, I've kept notes. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay,
That sounds good.
So my motion, in addition to making a motion to approve this, in addition to making a motion that the manager of zoning needs to approve a wood door for the Chai Guy, the motion also is modified so there be street numbers in the lights above the two doors, in the transoms above the two doors. Finally, this motion also approves the lighting of the blade signs, but the motion approval does not extend to any other lighting.
And I'm sorry that I also forgot addressing what door signs.
The door
and
signs.
then also there already is a window sign proposed by the dairy. Are what say you on those things?
That's not part of the proposal?
I thought that was part of the proposal, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now that we've got it, we're segmenting it so much, I think we want to actually say everything we're approving.
Okay, and that the motion also include approval for the signage described by the various property owners and business owners at this hearing. Is that okay, Tom? Or do you want me to be more?
The Pittsford Dairy door is outlined well on page 5 and was presented in the photo simulations of the application. So it is part of an unchanged package.
Yeah, Tom, I was just trying to call attention to any changes in the application.
All right, so that would mean that Chai, if they had any other signs they proposed, they'd have to come back then.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha.
My motion is now complete.
I'll second.
A motion has been made by Gerald Gamm and properly seconded by Jason Dobbs. Now we'll take a vote alphabetically for the board. We'll start with Deborah. Deborah, do you approve of the motion that was presented?
Yes, I'm in favor of this motion.
Thank you. Mr. Kane?
I'm in favor of the motion as presented.
Thank you. I, Christopher Coretta, I am also in favor of the motion as presented. Jim Deviney?
I'm in favor of the motion as presented.
Thank you, Jim. Jason Dobbs?
Yes.
Thank you, Jason. Gerald Gamm?
I'm in favor of the motion as so eloquently presented.
David Matthews?
I am in favor of the motion as presented.
It appears as if the board voted unanimously in favor of the motion as presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, this case is now closed. We are now going to move to the closing of the hearing. That was our last hearing item. Scroll to that. This concludes the Rochester Preservation Board hearing. We thank all applicants and citizens. The next scheduled hearing will be held on June 3rd, 2020. This hearing is scheduled to be a virtual meeting and will be streamed live on the mayor's office's YouTube page, as this one is. If you have any comments or questions related to the Rochester Preservation Board or this hearing, please email staff at preservationboard@cityofrochester.gov, which is shown on the screen here. And that is it.
Thanks, everyone.
Night, everybody.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Great teamwork. Thanks so much.
Thank you all. Excellent job. Thank you.
Good job, everyone.
Thank you.
Nice job, Chris and Chris.
Thanks, Deborah.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.